Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the Reven Cast, a Reven Blade podcast. And of course, I'm Actual Des, and I am, as always, joined by a Panda Sniper.
Hello.
And today's episode is going to be kind of tame. There's not a lot of like special news or anything to address, aside from some general I guess map knowledge that's been dropped in the Reven Blade Discord about, well, new in quotes maps, uh, as well as a reiteration of the 2-lane map that we actually talked about. It was like one of the first episodes that we did. So like there were some changes made to the 2-lane map, and then there is a revamped map of an old map. So I guess both these are just revamps, I guess.
Yep.
Um,
Reworks.
but I've played on the old 2-lane map, but I have not played on this revamped map. But we will get to that eventually. And yeah, we're just going to be talking about the maps, what we think about the maps, also like what is like the idea behind the maps. So first things first, I'm going to hide this, and we're going to go to the 2-lane map. The 2-lane map is how we're going to be starting this. We're just going to jump right into it. The 2-lane map, as you can tell, it is not Royal Gardens. It's not like a singular lane, like sort of ARAM style. There are 2 lanes that you go down. Each lane will have the crystals. I believe each lane will have separate towers as well for each crystal.
You can kind of see it at the bottom of
Yeah,
the screen. You can definitely see the top one. You can kind of see the bottom one.
yeah. You can see the beam of the
Beam,
one on
yeah.
the bottom, and the game is pretty much going to play the same. Just instead of 1 lane with with capture towers and crystals, you have 2 lanes with capture towers and crystals.
Correct.
I want to say there's also going to be shards to capture for XP.
Yes.
I remember Mocha talking about that. Um, do you have anything you would like to add to this, Panda?
I mean, I think the biggest just thing to note is that the lanes are variable. So if we assume that we are the left team, right? We can be pushed up on the right side crystal and down on the left side crystal. Like they're separate. You don't need to capture both crystals on like either side or anything like that. Um
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like trying to find
Yeah.
the words that are like in the Discord, uh, but like I'm not finding them. But I mean the deal with the 2-lane map is it gives more of it's more MOBA-ish. Like Reven Blade already has like MOBA elements in it, but with Royal Gardens, but the 2-lane map really just emphasizes the MOBA like elements of Reven Blade. There's just an extra lane. There's a bit more of a micromanage of going down lanes, and it's pretty much just the same. There's capture towers, capture the tower, you push the crystal, take over the crystal. The gameplay is just the same. It's just there's an extra lane to deal with now. Well, I say now, the map's not ready, and I don't know. I don't think this version of the map has been tested. But one thing that everyone agreed with the previous 2-lane map was the fact that the 2-lane map was too big. Like it was massive. If you remember from like our old episode, I think it was like our second or third episode. It was just a huge map. Luckily, I'm pretty sure at the time we had the sprint mechanic. So like
There's also the highway.
and then
on top.
there was also highway, and I think most people just did not like highway at all.
Mhm.
But that was just the big issue with it. Is the map was huge. Rotations felt like they took an eternity. And it felt like by the time like someone was split pushing one lane, you would like it would take forever to get there to stop them, and then by that time they just rotate over to the other lane. Like rotation time was like not really any good. And I say that because I lead into the next image here, where they shrunk down the size of the 2-lane map. So at the top here you have the Royal Gardens map, and then beneath it you have the 2-lane map. So like as a sort of scale, and it's about the same size, if not like like slightly bigger than Royal Gardens. But I think that's just because it's like wider. Um, but
Yes. Yeah, it is slightly longer, I think, too, but not necessarily like the actual playable space, that you're gonna be active in, um, or mostly active in.
mm-hmm. uh,
I'm
good.
good.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
I'm I am most like the worst part about the other 2-lane map, the original one, was just the size and highway.
Mm-hmm.
Like the map just being so big and highway being an actual platform that like you could be on. So it gave characters like Assassin advantage, or Ona an advantage because you could like run away to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's kind of funny because I think in theory highway is a great idea because essentially what Dota did, or not Dota, sorry, Deadlock did with their zipline system of like,
Yeah.
here's a fast way to get to lane, right? But Revenblade failed or faltered at the fact that they made it something you would run on and exist, as opposed to like a zip line, or um like a launch pad, I don't know, something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to play on this map. I'm excited to see how the rotations from one lane to the other feel in the macro play. Because I do think, at the very least, just making the map smaller and removing the highway mechanic is enough to, I don't want to say like fix the game mode, but at least to give us a better understanding of, okay, does 2 lanes work in Reven Blade? Does it like make the skill depth better? Um, yeah, should be fun.
So I mean, also with this new size, like this new 2-lane map, the obviously just looking at it, obviously it's smaller. So hopefully that just helps with rotation times and it doesn't take like a year to get to the other one. Um, which was also like a like part of the complaints with the 2-lane map that just kind of piggybacked on the map's too big argument. I personally liked Highway, but like you said earlier, Ona or even Beckett, like anyone with really good vertical movement could just easily access it quicker than anybody like Layla or Kaya.
Yeah.
Like those characters that just don't have the vertical movement like Ona or Beckett, the like they just they can't catch Ona or Beckett, and they also just can't get away from him. It's like, I'm up in highway, you can't get me. Oh, Ona just dashed up here twice. I'm
Yeah.
dead. You know? So like there were problems with highway, but I liked it. And it is pretty similar to like Deadlock's like zipline system. Um which that system's interesting, but that's not necessarily the topic of today. But um yeah, I personally liked Highway. I would like it to see it like changed, like tweaked. But I think with this new map, there won't be need of a highway. At least that's the hope, right? And I think there's plans to have shards scattered throughout the map. Um, but
There's
I think
it
they're still
yeah.
thinking on it.
No, there are gonna be shards.
There are going to
I
be shards.
always
Though. Okay.
Yeah, I would bet my current entirety of wealth that as long as shards are in Reven Blade as a mechanic, they will be on this map.
I mean, I think they should, like, because
I mean, I don't know why you would get rid of them. So
I mean, probably just try to differentiate between like game modes in a sense. But that's another thing is like with this map and the revamped map, which is known as Factory, um, is all these maps with Royal Gardens. These aren't going to be like different game modes or anything. These are all going to be in like a map rotation, to kind of help with variety and try to help the game not be stale. Because you have Royal Gardens, which is just a singular lane map, you know, the standard map, and then you have this 2-lane map, which is to be more of a like more MOBA esque, more like micromanaging of like lanes and everything. Um, and then you have, let me go ahead and swap the screens here. We have Factory, which Factory looks like it's just more of a condensed map with a singular control point to take control of all the crystals here. I personally have not played on the old Factory map. Mocha, thank you so much for the resub. Thank you for the Prime sub. Appreciate it. I personally have not played on Old Factory. So like I have no experience with how the old map played or how it was even like structured. Like I have not seen anything. And there goes the alert again. It's delayed. We'll rock it. It's fine. But what
Fun.
you've played on the Old Factory map, right, Panda?
Yeah, I loved it. I
Like
loved it.
what was it about it that you enjoyed?
I mean, it's just the like if you have Royal Gardens, which is like your standard map where there's like you need to have some macro, but it's pretty brawly, right? And then you have the 2-lane map, which is like, all right,
Oops.
this is very macro focused, like split push, a lot of 3v2s or 2v2s, right? Then Factory was just, nah, it's just a brawl. Just all the time, there's constant combat. There's only the one control point in the middle. The crystal at the bottom of the screen here starts out as a neutral crystal, so it doesn't have a side. Um, and so it's just okay, you rush to the crystal at the beginning of the map, and whoever last hits the crystal, it converts to their side. Um, at least that's how it was in the other one. I don't know if that mechanic is going to change or stay the same, but
Mm-hmm.
it was very much just like, all right, like 5v5 team fight constantly. It's almost like ARAM in League.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fun. It's just fun. It's constant action. It's like the best. Like I think if I was ever gonna split Reven Blade up into multiple game modes, and I personally was one of the people that recommended keeping it all in one queue. But like I would be a big fan of having like factory or single point maps kind of like this as like warm up maps or just like the quick play version of the game. Um, but I loved it. It was fun. This map seems simpler. The other map had a big hole you could fall into, and I think there was an extra side lane at the bottom of the screen here. That was actually kind of bugged because if you were a character that didn't have vertical mobility, when you fell down into the side lane, you couldn't get back up out of the side lane, so you just had to die
Yeah,
to
that's yikes.
respawn. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, so it also just seems like it just creates a point on the map uh to fight over to incentivize team fights.
Yeah,
But like I've at least with excuse me, at least with Royal Gardens, right? Like everyone goes to islands above the mid tower. Like everybody tries to posture and like get that position. This seems no different to me. Only there's just an objective here, which I don't mean to like paint this as like a negative or anything. Just drawing the comparison of everyone going to islands on Royal Gardens, everyone going to islands and fighting there, trying to take point. I compare that to here on Factory, where everyone's like, "All right, we need to go and get this crystal." Only this one matters more because it's an actual objective of the game. Uh,
Crystal. Yeah,
whereas with Royal Gardens, Islands was just to have high ground. It was just to take it, which is valuable. But again, it's not an objective. You don't have to. You can just let the enemy team have it, but then you're just going to get pelted by the Vivian. That's like just sitting up there.
Yeah, you're now at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
I
So
think it would be, yeah, I don't know how the initial crystal capture mechanic is going to work. Like, I think it would be interesting if it started as a neutral crystal, but with the defenses up. So both teams are actually fighting over. Well, yeah, I don't know how that would work. I don't know.
yeah, and I think it's like still like in the works of like what exactly how it's gonna play out. Um, but it's definitely more of like more of a skirmishy type of
Yeah,
map, which
75 brawl.
yeah, which is fine. But again, just to reiterate that they are going to have all these maps, factory, the 2 lane map, and Royal Gardens in one rotation. Um, so these aren't going to be separate modes. They're not going to drop multiple modes for beta or whatever. They're pretty much just trying to keep things simple, more confined, and just add more of a variety to the gameplay with a map rotation, which I think is fine. Like I think it's very cool. I'm very interested to like see how that plays out. Um,
I mean, the big benefit of it is like a lot of people that don't like the Royal Gardens map because of lack of macro, right? We don't have like you don't want to split the player base into multiple game modes because that's
mhm.
always bad, right? But you
Especially
want to
going
know
into
as
a
a
beta.
game, yeah, but you want to know as a game developer, like, okay, is the 2 lane map or the um like 3 tower solo point map like factory, like are these uh quote unquote game modes or map designs worth pursuing, right?
Hmm.
And this gives, you know, an easy way for Mocha and the dev team. I think he talked about this too, where it's just at the end of the map, you just have like a little survey, like, did you like the map? Rate, you know, rate it on a scale from 1 to 10 or whatever, and then
Hmm.
submit. And then you have bulk data that you can look at and be like, all right, on average, if people said, you know, voted a 7 or an 8 for the 2 lane map, only voted a 5 for the single lane map and then voted a 2 for this single point map, then you know, all right, maybe I don't focus as much on the factory type maps. The Royal Garden type maps can stay. Maybe it's an issue with Royal Gardens map design, or maybe you know you can get more data there, and then you're like, all right, a lot of people like the 2 lane maps. Let's develop another one. See, do they like that map? You know, it's a lot easier to gather player attention and feedback than doing different game modes because somebody will play the 2 lane map once, hate it, and never click that game mode again. You know, there's like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm just never gonna touch it. Whereas here, it's like you're not forced into it. Like, you can always Alt F4, I guess, if you really want to. But it's much more like, all right, I'm in the game. This happens to be the map that I'm playing. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I also like this thought just kind of dawned on me is and people can for better or for worse, people can like take this for how they will. Uh this reminds me a bit of Heroes of the Storm
Love that
where
game.
what's that?
Love that game.
I recently got back into it. For better or
It's
for worse.
alive.
Yes, it's still around, but that's a discussion for another time.
Sorry. Yeah,
Discussion for
yeah,
another
sorry,
time.
sorry.
But it's like Heroes of the Storm, where you have multiple maps and they sort of play differently. They have like a similar like structure, but there's just different like nuances and stuff in the
Yep.
maps, and that adds like a nice bit of variety. Some people will probably like Factory, some people will probably hate Factory.
Yeah.
People like Royal Gardens, and people who hate Royal Gardens. If you hate Royal Gardens, you're kind of cringe, but that's just my take. But like there's variety, and I do think like trying to split off into different game modes, especially for a beta, is not the play. But again, that's not what they're doing. It's going to be a map rotation, and I'm very excited to see like how it all plays out.
Yeah,
Um,
one of my when I was learning just kind of like the basics of League, not that I'm good at League now, but how League was literally played just as a game. One of the things that I disliked the most was that it was a single map. You know, like it just felt like, all right, if I'm a jungler and I'm playing this character, my route is as like a beginner always the same. Like it pretty much never changes. If you're a beginner. If you're advanced, obviously it might. But it just felt like so repetitive that the first 5 minutes of a game, every game, were the same. You know?
Yeah,
Um,
I was about to say
like
there was Twisted Tree Line. That was a 3v3 2 lane map, but I'm pretty sure they killed that
but
eventually.
then again, that's a different game mode. It's not like a five. It's not the same. It's a different queue.
Oh,
Like I
I
want to
see
be
what you
able,
mean.
like in Overwatch, you play, you have capture point, you have push the objective, you have capture point and push the objective, and you have the King of the Hill,
Mm.
right? Oh, I guess capture point is no longer a game mode, but back when I played Overwatch, you had those, but you didn't. You just hit play. It's not like you chose one, and then the map came up and I had a different game mode. I always liked that. Um, at
Yeah,
least any kind of map design, like map design to me is awesome because it's a way of adding depth to a game without adding complexity, where it's like, okay, we need to add an item system, which is a totally valid way if you like that, but I think it's just, if we add maps, you add different team comps, I don't know.
yeah,
Personal opinion.
yeah. I can see your point, but I am just excited just to be able to play on these maps. Obviously, we've played on Royal Gardens for years, so it's like we know that map like the back of our hand.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just exciting to think about to play on these new maps because new map, exciting, wow, you know, and just very curious of how they hold up compared to I guess the standard map, Royal Gardens. Um, I did want to do like an honorable mention to Glacier, which was another map that was playtested like years ago. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a good enough image for Glacier.
Glacier?
Yeah.
Dude,
Um.
what? I don't is
Uh,
it was that gray box?
probably. Yeah.
Okay, I think I might know.
Um. I couldn't.
There's also a village.
No, there's Village. Village. Yeah,
That
Village
one's
is.
Village. I think that one's playable.
Um. Village though was like sort of like Royal Gardens. Like it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like singular lane ish. You had like some like side paths sort of. Which I mean, nothing wrong. I have nothing against Village. Village. I liked the Village map. Um. But the Glacier map again, I couldn't find a good image or anything for it. So you're just gonna have to take my word for it. It was like I think it was originally called Cove. I think was like a code word for
Mhm.
it. But it basically was like uh it was like in a mountain or something. It was like sort of curved, and then on the outside it was just a cliffside that you could fall off and die. Um, the map there was also like kind of huge, but obviously it wasn't as big as like the old 2 lane map because well there was still 1 lane but with side paths. So it
Dude,
wasn't.
did that have crazy verticality on the last point?
I think so.
There was like 3 different levels. I
Yeah, it was
remember.
like the center point. There was like the capture tower. You had the floor where the tower
Yep.
was, a little bit higher elevation, and then some
Yep.
ramps and stuff that you go up to another level.
I
Um,
remember.
yeah, that map.
Yeah, that map was very large for
Uh,
a single lane map.
yeah. I mean, I liked it. I the map was big, but I couldn't really. It didn't feel big to me when I played it, but maybe that's just me. Like the size of Glacier or Cove, whatever you want to call it, it didn't really bother me, but it was probably just because it still only had the single lane, so there was like it was just Royal Gardens, but a bigger map in a way. So like it just didn't bother me, but it just didn't feel big.
I do distinctly remember running around that map looking for fights because I literally couldn't find, like, not that I couldn't find them, but I'm like, all right, there's like you 4 people are over there. I now either have to like take the longest flank route in the world and go around or search for like the solo player. And if players were dead, it did sometimes feel like I'm literally running around the map and I'm like, I don't see anybody. Like where where is everyone?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I do think it was too big, but I liked some of the ideas that it had.
Yeah. Uh, so I mean, I would like to see that map kind of come back. But I mean, whether it does or not, no idea. If it got morphed into like the other maps that we talked about today, um, I mean, I would like to see it come back because it was kind of here, and then next thing you know, it was just kind of gone. I think the devs explained why, but I don't remember. So my brain is just like, oh hey, where'd this map go? Oh, where'd it go? It was cool. I mean, granted, I think a lot of people were like, it was okay, but could use some fine tuning, which I mean makes sense. Like it wasn't a perfect map, but it was at least fun. Like I thought it was fun. There was a good amount of like verticality and everything to highlight just movement and mobility skills with individual heroes. So, I mean, I liked it, but I can understand if it was just not what the devs were looking for. But that was just like an honorable mention I wanted to give. I couldn't find a good image of it or any footage. I think there's a clip of it on my Twitch channel, but like it doesn't really. It shows a little bit of the map, but like it's only a few seconds.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the thing I liked the most about the map was the verticality, but the map was too big to make it feel good.
mm,
But I do think like a map focused more on verticality, kind of like how this center point on Royal Gardens is, where you have like there's three distinct layers.
mm-hmm.
Um,
You have the ground floor, and then you have like the ledges above it, and then you have
yeah,
islands.
and then you have islands above. Like I do think that a map focused, like as opposed to being horizontal like most maps are, if you had like a vertical map almost, where it's like everyone starts on the middle layer
Mm.
and then you or maybe the top layer and you fight down. I don't know. Like I think that would just be kind of interesting. Where if you're playing, you're almost playing like in a hotel, you know, or like
Hotel
like
Mario?
yeah, like you're.
No, 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 no.
'Cause I think CS:GO has a map like that, and I haven't played CS in fucking forever, but I know that a lot of people like that map because its design is different. I know that Rainbow Six has some maps like that too, and I think it's fun to try and twist the standard map design as much as possible. You know?
I mean, absolutely. Like you want to try to innovate, try to take some parts of like what you have and try to see if it translates well into another map. But obviously like tweak it some so it's
Yeah,
actually unique and different, not just
yeah,
like
and
Royal
fits your
Gardens
game.
2.0, you know.
Yeah,
Um so which is very important, but it's I don't know. Well, it's just everything is just we will see.
yeah,
Because we don't really have a date for a next playtest. If there is one planned, my understanding is one is planned, but we, of course, again, we don't know like when the date is. Um, but I don't. It's I'm waiting. I want to play the game more. It's
yeah.
just
Me too.
like playing the bot games is fine enough for a while, but you can only do so much with the bot games because I mean, as you could see, the bots here, like they can only do so much, but it's serviceable.
Yeah,
Um, but it
I
does
mean you'll
it.
have Sakaro for the next playtest.
I mean, yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
but uh, we will see. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. We've reached almost 30 minutes, so a little longer than expected, but that's perfectly fine. Um, Next playtest is on Steam. I think that has been said.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I remember.
Well, it's both.
It'll
Like if you
be.
have a Reven Blade account now, it's not gonna stop you from playing in it. But
Mm.
you'll also like Reven Blade, the application will be on Steam. You can use a Steam account. Like yeah.
I just wanted to like go back into Discord and double check because I feel like that was said somewhere. Um, but I I, I didn't want to bring it up because I wasn't 100% certain. Um, but I mean, if
There, there's a client already that has the ability to, well, at least there's like an option to. I didn't actually test it, I think, but to like connect your Steam account and stuff. So
okay, I mean, hey, that's
it
fantastic.
looks so good.
Is there ever
It
going
looks
to
so
be
good.
controller support?
There's controller support now.
Sort of. You can move, but
Yeah.
like you can't. You
I don't
can't
think you.
like map the abilities or anything
Yeah.
to the keys.
Well,
Not quite yet.
you can use abilities. No, it has default bindings. You just can't change them.
I tried using a controller, and all I could do was move and move the camera. I couldn't use any of the abilities or
Really?
anything.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so like it's sort of there. And from my understanding, the devs want to incorporate controller support, but it's not really a primary focus right now. Um, but the fact that you can plug in a controller and just move says something. But you
To be
know,
fair, that's basic Unreal 4.
I mean, sure,
Like you,
yes, but
yes.
first try with
That
controller couldn't
you
do anything other than move. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I think. You can only move with the controller right now. But again, they want to add
Are
controller
there
support, but again, it's not a
are there
primary.
apps that allow you to download like to map controller buttons to keyboard inputs?
I have no idea.
Because if there are, you could, if you can move in the game, then you can just map the buttons to the buttons on screen. You know, like
Mm,
R&B shift or whatever, and play that way. I mean, it's obviously a workaround, and you want it natively, but
right.
an option if you really just want to play on controller and not mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. I mean, because there are other people that just prefer to use controller,
Yeah.
which is perfectly fine. Um, I really wanted to kill that Kaizen. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's episode. Just wanted to talk about the maps. We do have like another topic that we want to talk about, but of course,
Have we talked about Sicario, by the way?
uh,
Because I don't think we talked about him.
we have not, but that is fine.
Okay. If you're
Because
fine with it,
well,
I'm fine with
spoilers.
it.
Spoilers. I have a video coming out eventually, but
Gotcha.
I need to work on it when I can. I was just trying to keep quiet about it.
Well, cut this part out of the YouTube video.
No. Are you kidding me? No, it's not going to make sense. But anyway, thanks again for tuning in for this episode of the Revencast. Appreciate you guys being here. I stream these live on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, I stream these live on Twitch, twitch.tv/actualdez. Come say hi. Call me smelly. Go for it. Why not? I don't know when the next episode will be. That's just something like Pan and I have to like
Yeah,
discuss.
probably whenever the beta is announced, because assuming that there's like patch notes or devlog or something that we can go over, then probably
Hmm.
go over that. But
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, once beta is like announced, then by all means, like there will definitely be a Revencast episode about it, like for sure. No ifs, ands, or buts. Um, but yeah, that's gonna do it for the episode. Thank you guys again for watching, and we will see you next time.
bye.